Thank you for staying inside on such a gorgeous day. I hope I can pay you back and get a good one again tomorrow. I am really excited about this training session. I think we're going to share a lot of great information and hopefully get some good conversations going. And the first person I'm going to introduce is Rick Rappaport. He is one of our Lowly volunteers, and he is the lead on our maintenance team. And he has, last count, done 124 services.
Even I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I'm not that embarrassing yet. In September of 2018, Rick received a Distinguished Service Award from the association for the work he does with several organizations, the Lions Club.
Stop now.
No, not yet.
Just let me talk.
I practice. 2 associations, I'll stop here. Lions Club, the church, and Lowly. There you go. Thank you.
I was headed for a seat. Who knew I was first? Well, as you said, my name is Rick Rappaport, and I'm one of about a half a dozen people that make up the maintenance portion of the services that we offer to our Lowly clients. And I'm just going to talk a couple minutes about what we do and why we rely on many other volunteers beyond the maintenance group to help us deliver services. When someone first becomes a client, one of the very first things that's offered to them is a home maintenance check. And if they're willing to have us do that, we'll come in with a little form that we have made up, and we'll go through their house and just look at things like, our outside lights. Are outside lights working? Are there rails tight? We'll reach under the cabinets and make sure that all the faucets, there's no slow leak or drip that's causing problems that they're sometimes not able to get down and see for themselves. So we're just checking dryer vents, stuff like that. So it's useful, and sometimes we'll identify things that need to be done, but to be honest with you, it's half of it is what's on the list, and half of this is pretext. And the pretext is to get us, the maintenance people, into a client's home and have a conversation with them. And 2 things. One, kind of lower their stress a little bit about inviting someone strange, generally a man, into their home. As you know, a lot of our clients are single women, elderly women. And so there's a little bit of nervousness about inviting a stranger in, whether it's a volunteer or a professional. So we go in and we have this conversation, and we hope to kind of lower that stress level. Secondly, it gives us an opportunity to observe for ourselves, because a lot of times the things that really need doing aren't on the list, and it's the kind of thing that clients are sometimes reluctant to call and ask for help, because they think of it in professional terms. Oh my gosh, who would want to come and do this? It's such a small thing. They've lived it for quite a while. So they're just reluctant to call Stacy and ask. So by coming into their house and having this conversation, we can look and see kind of what else might need doing, but it also invites them to mention things. And as we're going around all these different rooms and you begin to develop this rapport with them, they might say, could someone look at this door? It kind of sticks. It's something that they probably wouldn't call, but for the fact that you're standing there in their house. So that's the first thing we do. And I encourage you, as you run across clients, especially if they're new clients, ask them, have you had a home maintenance check? Because we do that for people, and encourage them to do it, because it's a great icebreaker. The primary thing we do is just kind of minor repairs of all kinds. Basically, we do the things that professionals don't want to do. So if it's something like changing light bulbs or fixing a sticky door or something like that, we're happy to come in and do that. We change light bulbs. We try to encourage clients to go to LED, because we won't have to come back for another 10 or 15 years, particularly if it's things like high in the ceiling or whatever. That's typically the calls we get, because we don't want clients on ladders if they're elderly or have stability issues or balance issues. We want to be the ones going up on the ladder. So we try to encourage them both inside and outside to go to LED. Running toilets, do a lot of running toilets. Every once in a while the toilet flushes itself or it won't stop running, so we replace a lot of toilet guts. Smoke alarm issues. Many of our clients have been in their home for many, many, many years, and the battery beeps on, or the smoke alarm beeps. I think it's a battery. They put a new battery in, it still keeps beeping. That's because smoke alarms only last about 10 years, and then and then the smoke alarm is dead. That little diode or whatever the thing is inside there that makes it work dies, and you got to replace the unit. Every smoke alarm manufactured in the modern age has the data manufacturer. If you take it down, shows the data manufacturer. We replace a lot of smoke alarms. And when we go in and do the home maintenance thing, if I could reach it without a ladder, I'll just pull it, most of the time I can. I'll just pull it down and look at it, because when do those things always go off? 2 a.m., right? And I'll tell them, hey, you know, this thing's 10 years old, you really ought to think about replacing it, unless you like getting up at 2 a.m. to try to figure out what the problem is. So we do a lot of smoke alarms. We do a lot of light repairs. Again, many times clients have been in their home for years. Fluorescent lights, you get a lot of fluorescent lights. And you know, a fluorescent light bulb isn't that much. You put a new light bulb in, it still doesn't work. What's the problem? Most of them are old lights, they got ballast. You have to replace the ballast. Now you can replace the light, but many of our clients have fluorescent lights. They're not an industrial fixture. They're some kind of a fancy fixture that they bought for their house some time ago, and it's got a nice wood frame, or it's something nice. It's probably going to cost $70 or $100 to replace that light. A ballast is about $10 or $15. So in the last year, I think I've rewired about 8 ballasts in people's homes. Try to get an electrician in to do that. They don't want to do it. First, you got to go online and order it. Then you got to wait till it comes in. Then it's about 45 minutes worth of wiring, because when you take the ballast down, it's got about 10 wires. You got to all reconnect, cut and reconnect and put it back in. But it saves them the money, and they don't have to buy another $100 light. Oftentimes, and if it's a matching one, it's even tougher, because you want everything to match. Oftentimes we get the supplies ourselves and the clients reimburse us, because you don't know going in what you need until you're there. And then we'll say, look, here's what I think this is going to cost. I'm happy to run out and get it. And you can just pay us when, after we'll bring you the receipt back, and that works. Occasionally clients want to get it themselves, and that's okay too. The last thing we do is we look for preventative maintenance kind of things. And this falls into several categories. And it's on the home inspection, the maintenance checklist. Dryer vents. We want to make sure that when they turn a dryer on, the air is actually getting outside. I was in a client's home about a few months ago, and the vent had become so plugged that it was exhausting into the basement. And when I walked in, literally the entire wall was covered in lint, up into the rafters, just lit. I mean, and it was scary. It's like, a match in this place would be devastating. So that's why it's on our home maintenance checklist, is to make sure that the vents are open. And we look at things like the grease trap over the stove. You'd be surprised how many people don't even know there's a grease trap up there, and say, hey, just throw it in the dishwasher and run it through a cycle, it'll be fine. Washer hoses. We had a client, I don't know, about a year, 2 years ago, I think, elderly woman living in her home by herself. The feed hose to her washing machine ruptured and was spraying water across the room. Think of dragging your hose in from outside, turning it on, just throwing it on the floor. She called immediately. Our coordinator called several of us. I was the second person to get there. One of our other maintenance guys was the first guy to get there. But as fast as he could get there and shut that off, it still flooded several rooms in her house. Filled up her appliances with water, ruined her floors, ran down into the vents, into the heating system. I mean, it was a mess. So now, whenever I go in and I added it to the maintenance checklist, I'll inspect the washer hoses to make sure that they're not real old. Because some people have been living in their house, some of our clients, 20 years. The washing machine works every time they turn it on. They don't think about, gosh, how old is that hose? You can get a new set for under 20 bucks. But it's the kind of thing that if that goes bad, it's going to go really, really bad for them. So those are the kind of preventative things we do. The last thing we do is sometimes we'll go out, Stacy will call me or one of the other folks and say, can you go out and just assess this problem? And sometimes when we go out and you know, as soon as you see it, you know, that's not something we're gonna be able to fix. But we can at least assess and say, here's what the problem is as best I can determine, and here's what I think you need. Went to a client's house a few months ago, and it was clear she had water stains on the ceiling in the basement, and water leaking from a place on the wall. And what we finally determined was she had some serious structural issues on where the deck was attached to the house. It was coming in from outside. And, you know, I called Stacy and I said, you know, she doesn't need a handyman, she needs a contractor. I mean, she's got serious structural issues with this house. But we'll go out and do that kind of assessment and then try to point them, try to connect them with the right kind of professional through our preferred service providers, so that they don't get taken and they get the kind of advice that they really need. And that's really helpful. So, what don't we do? Well, Stacy's had to read me the Riot Act a couple times to make sure I follow the rules. We don't go on roofs. I fixed a couple of roofs. I was told, no, don't go on the roofs. Now I don't fix roofs anymore. We don't go under houses. So we don't go into anyone's house to do any shutting off their spigots or anything like that. We don't do ongoing maintenance tasks. So we won't come out every week and cut someone's lawn. We won't come out in the fall and haul 2 truckloads of leaves out of their yard. We don't do those kinds of things because really that's competing with professionals that make their living that way. We don't do new projects. If someone calls and says, gosh, I'd really like to have a new deck put on my house, we don't do that. And you'll be surprised, we get that, we do get that. Can you paint this room for me? Can you install new appliances? We don't do that kind of stuff. But we do try to hook them up with the people that deliver those services. So, in conclusion, how do people access our services? Well, one is, when they first come on board, we encourage them to do the home maintenance check. Secondly, just through conversations, either they bring it up to us or we observe walking through. If we're on another call at the house, we observe things that need doing. And rarely do I go do one thing for a client that I don't do a second thing before I leave. Because, and I'm happy about that, because they'll say, well, you know, gosh, can you take a look at that door that sticks? Can you take a look at this drawer? Can you take a look at this cabinet door that sags? And we're happy to do that. And then lastly, and this is where you all come in, if you're having a conversation with a client, maybe you're driving someone somewhere, maybe you're doing just a home visit or something, and they mention something that needs doing, please give Stacy a call and let her know, hey, just, you know, this client just mentioned this to me, and maybe it's something one of our maintenance people could take a look at. Because again, the hardest thing to overcome is the reluctance of some people to pick up the phone and say, could you have someone come out and do it? Because they just feel, I see Stacy nodding her head, they feel so guilty because they used to do that themselves, and so, you know, that's an issue right there. And then secondly, they hate to inconvenience all of us to help them out. That's what we're here for. So it's really important, if you have that rapport with our clients as you're delivering a service and that comes up in conversation, don't assume, and don't just say, well, why don't you call and have them do that? Make a follow-up call or put it in your after thing, your report to Stacy. Oh, by the way, they mentioned this, maybe that's something maintenance can take a look at. And we're happy to go out and do that. So with that, I'm done. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Gail and Joe Sorrow have been Lowland members since the very beginning of Lowland. And in February of 2016, Gail was diagnosed with macular degeneration. And when she was speaking with her therapist, she asked, well, is there a support group I could join? And her therapist, Meryl Lee, said, no, but you can start one. And so Gail, along with Meryl Lee and Dick Gullerson from the Lions Club, started the Impaired Vision Support Group at Lake of the Woods, and they meet on the first Tuesday of every month here at the community center. And they host speakers, and they discuss problems and solutions that are important to those who are struggling with vision impairment. And Gail, with the help of her lowly assistant, is going to cover some tips on helping our members with vision impairment issues. And if you want me to hand your things out while you start? Okay, that'll be fun.
I'm going to start with macular degeneration, which is what I have. And I know that you in the back probably cannot see the diagram here that tells you how I see you. In macular degeneration, the central vision is the one that goes. I'm very fortunate. I have good peripheral vision, which is how I look. I have a little central vision. It's very grayish and sometimes very moving like this. But the retina, which is what affects, which is why you get macular degeneration, is very important, because what you see is what transmits to your brain that you know that was Rick Rappaport up here speaking, or that's Mary Jane in the back, which I can't see real well, but that's taking movies. I think that it's very important that we all know that sunglasses, which I never wore, are very important to us. And I know this is called an age-related degeneration of your eyes, but it can happen to young people also. And sunglasses are very important. And I can't stress it enough, especially on a day like today, to wear those. So I just wanted to let you know that that's how macula works. That's how it works. And the other thing is, these are the explanations for these that Margaret's going to help me show you how to work with people that you may be taking to the doctor or to the grocery store, or that. The first thing you do is introduce yourself. Of course, I know all of you do that. And the next thing you do is ask, can I help you? Is there anything I can do to help you? And they'll let you know what they want you to do. Also, I forgot when I was describing this, here is a list, and you're welcome to come up later to look at this board. Here is a list of all of the eye diseases that are on record right now. And each one of them has a way of seeing or not seeing. You can be visually impaired and see one way. You can be visually impaired and see the other. Like the opposite of macular degeneration is retinitis pigmentosus. That goes from your peripheral vision in, where I'm here and I can see out, they cannot. And in our group, we have people that have all sorts of vision problems, and we're very good about accepting what we cannot change, but also we have good days and bad days. And we have good vision days and bad vision days. So therefore, I want to point out to you that if you pick me up one day and I'm in a nasty mood, that is probably a bad vision day. But it doesn't happen very often, and most people are very mild-tempered and everything, but it does happen. And I think that it's important that we all realize that. Joe is getting used to it. This is Charles Bernard. This disease of the eye is new to me. I can't tell you much about it. I can tell you that I have there are two ladies in my group, in our group, that have this. and it's Charles Bonnet syndrome. And with this, and I'm telling you because we are a mature, I'd like to say that other than old, audience. And when we get this disease, we see things. We see things that other people never will see. It's like I read up on this, and the first thing, this was discovered, he discovered this, and I may be mistaken, because it's been a while, but it was 1800s that he discovered this. And then later on down the road, there was this little lady, probably my age, that the daughters thought, oh my goodness, she's got really bad dementia now. She was seeing these children dancing in these beautiful dresses and everything. Well, there were no children, there were no beautiful dresses. And finally, they diagnosed it. It was not dementia, it was not Alzheimer's, it was Charles Bonnet syndrome. And so as a mature audience that you are helping and taking to the grocery store or to the doctor visit and everything, if you get someone in the car and say, I see a tree over there with lights on it, you know, it could be very well be that. The one lady in our group sees white lace curtains trimmed in purple. Now, it goes away, it doesn't stay constantly or anything, but I thought it would be nice to bring that to your attention because of our age and things do happen. But in any event, I also brought some of these. This is from the state of Virginia, from the Department of the Blind and Visually Impaired. And you can call, they can call, if you have a member, that you're taking to the store or something and you feel that they may need that, if you could work it into the conversation, it would be nice for them to call. That's how I got started. I called and they send an occupational therapist, they evaluate you, they take you to a specialist to be evaluated as far as your vision goes and what magnification or anything like this that you may need to be able to read. It's very good. Now you're there on a limited basis in the beginning. They do for you what they can and teach you how to work in the kitchen and work with knives and that sort of thing. But when you graduate from that, you're on the roll there, but you have to call them back. They don't keep coming. But it would be very beneficial if any of you know people that may be interested in that. This is the White King. I have it, I got it through Virginia. I should use it, but I don't. I will. But it's important if you're working with someone that, doesn't see everything on the ground and all that, this really guides them and it's very good with letting people know that you need a little help once in a while. So if you don't have any questions there? Okay, Margaret.
Thank you.
These are the helping hands, I call them. These are your guides, and each of you have a paper. I don't remember them in order, so if I cannot read the board. So if I go out of order, you can find it. This is to welcome the people and say, hi Margaret, I'm Gail. Can I help you today? Is there anything I can do to assist you?
I could use some help in to the cabinets.
Okay, so this is, we're going to put our hand here And she's going to work her hand up to my elbow, and I am going to take
You're the
her.
one who needs help getting to the cabinets. We haven't practiced.
Well, we haven't practiced, and my husband told me I was doing it on the wrong side, so. Here we go. So this is supposed to be me, the darker, and the lighter is Margaret. And we are going over to the cabinet. And there is no obstructions here. There is nothing above or below.
Right, and it would be my job to tell Gail that there is a box to her left, so she needs to be careful of that, and that there is a chair sticking out.
You're doing my job. We're still on the wrong side. Okay, what's the next one?
The next one
I'm all sorry.
is a tight
I
space.
hope Mary Jane's.
Tight space, and I'm the blind person.
You're the blind person. Okay. Oh, you're the blind person, hold me. We are coming up to, oh. We're going over 10 minutes.
You're okay. There we go.
Oh, okay.
I got one.
Okay, we're going to be coming through a very tight space. So I'm going to tell her that we are coming to a very tight space. So what she's going to do is, I'm going to put my arm here, and she knows that she has to go in back of me to get through this tight space. And once we're through, what's the next one?
Can you pull your arm?
Yeah.
So they're gonna change sides.
We're going to change sides. So we're going to put, yeah, my arm, yeah. You can tell, see, I'm nervous. Okay, and that way you never leave your person. She always has touch with you.
Right.
That's very important that they do, and I have to stop with myself and get serious here. Oh, yeah. When you go through a door, you always lead your person to the, the hinge side of the door. So we're going over here. And watch his feet. Go over closer. So now we're going to change sides, and I'm going to go through the door, and she's going to close the door behind me. And these are all new to me, too. Okay, we're going to walk up to a chair, and I'm going to tell her that we're facing the outside of the room, and the chair is going to be on your left. So we're going to walk up to the chair, and you can, I'll put my hand in the small of your back, turn around, feel the back of the chair, and sit. Very good. Car.
Oh, car.
Car is very important too. I found out that with the SUVs, some of them are very tall. And I cannot get in the SUV the way I get in the car. So in the SUV, I would assume that a person would go into the car or into the SUV the same way you would, like everybody puts a foot in and turns around and sits down, right? But if you're in a car, it's lower. And it's the ideal thing to take this person and let her open the door. And then she goes up to the seat, feels the back of the seat, turns, And do not sit flush. You sit on the side of the chair, and I put my hand up here to keep your head from hitting the door, and then you flip around. And I may not be explaining that properly, but that's the best way to get into the car. You don't have to worry about juggling or anything, or going off balance by putting your leg up and going in. You're just there.
And you're sliding.
And you're sliding in. Steps, you always make sure that you say the steps are going up, and you always, your guide always goes a step ahead of you, and then you step. And when you go down, you do the same thing. You say, we are going down, and when you get to the bottom or the top, you always say, you're at the bottom, or you're at the top. And that's pretty much it. Any questions? Thank you.
Well done, Gail, well done. Emily Stunt and Vicki Fleming are going to talk to us about assisting our members who are struggling with memory loss. And both, if you don't know Vicki or Emily, they are both rolling board members, and they have assisted us on the volunteer and the social activities committees. And they have had family and friends and members who are struggling with dementia, and they recognize both the discomfort and the challenges that face not only the people who are diagnosed with dementia, but also their caregivers. They have attended workshops to learn more about assisting people with dementia, and they have both been designated as dementia champions to foster friends of dementia in the community. And they're going to go over some helpful tips for us for dealing with our members who are struggling with memory loss.
Well, thank you very much. We're going to try to cover the key points from our course that we took last August. There was about 5 or 7 of us. I can't quite remember how many, because we went 2 different days. And it was pretty much a whole day thing, but I'm going to try to do this in just a few minutes. And then Emily is going to talk about some key points in some brochures that the Alzheimer's Association has recently put out. And then we're going to do a little bit of role playing, okay? And we're going to try to do this in 15 minutes, okay? The sheet that is being given out to you is basic information, how you would converse with people that have dementia. Really, a lot of it is things that how you would converse with regular people. A lot of it is common sense, but it does go a step further and telling you that you have to be a little slower. Your body language and your conversation and your voice has to be more compassionate, and you have to allow them more time to think and to figure out some of the situations that they're in. So I'm basically going to read from this. We're going to start with communication. Some of your sheets may not have that at the top. My copier is not the best. Okay, consider these tips when communicating with a person with dementia. Treat the person with dignity and respect. Avoid talking past the person as if he or she isn't there. Put away your cells. Talk directly to them. Eye contact and so on. Be aware of their feelings. Your tone of voice may communicate your attitude. Use positive, friendly facial expressions. This is something I think I have to work on, because I have a tendency to talk too loud, I think, when I'm in conversations one-on-one. Be patient and supportive. Let the person know that you are listening and trying to understand. Show that you care about what he or she is saying and be careful not to interrupt. Offer comfort and reassurance. If he or she is having trouble communicating, reassure them that it's okay and encourage the person to continue. In other words, don't show any impatience. Avoid criticizing or correcting. And really that is one thing that can be very difficult not to do. Don't tell the person what he or she is saying is incorrect. Instead, listen and try to find the meaning in what is being said. And obviously, all of us have different opinions about most things anyway. Avoid arguing. If the person says something you don't agree with, let it be. Arguing usually only makes things worse and often increases agitation for the person with dementia. Offer a guess. If a person uses the wrong word or cannot find a word, try guessing the right word. If you understand what the person means, finding the right word may not be necessary. Encourage nonverbal communication. If you don't understand what is being said, ask the person to point or gesture. Okay, conversation tips. When approaching the person with dementia and starting a conversation, come from the front. Never come from the back, it's going to scare them to death. Identify yourself and keep good eye contact. If the person is seated or reclined, go down to that level. So if a person is seated, you should also sit yourself down. But of course, you would have to ask permission if it's okay to sit in that seat if you're in that person's home. Call the person by their preferred name to get his or her attention. Use short, simple phrases and repeat information as needed. Ask one question at a time. And I think there's a tendency when you meet somebody new, you may ask 2 or 3 questions. Oh, where are you from? Where do you live? Or whatever, okay? Speak slowly and clearly. Use a gentle and relaxed tone. Patiently wait for a response while the person takes time to process what you said. During the conversation, provide a statement rather than ask a question. For example, say, the bathroom is right here, instead of asking, do you need to use the bathroom? Avoid confusing and vague statements about something you want the person to do. Instead, speak directly. Please come here, your shower is ready. I think that's a poor example in this because we really don't help our members with that. But name an object or place. For example, rather than here it is, say here is your hat. Turn negatives into positives. Instead of saying don't go there, say let's go over here. Give visual cues. Point or touch the item you want the person to use, or begin the task for him or her. Avoid quizzing. Reminiscing may be healthy, but avoid asking, do you remember when? Do you remember the war? Do you remember when you went to school? Try using written notes or pictures as reminders if the person is able to understand them. So this was really a key part of our discussion, and from this we had a lot of other discussions, but this was pretty much the emphasis in the program that we went to last August. So Emily is now going to speak about information that she has found from the Alzheimer's Association. And do you want me to give out the pamphlets or not? Okay. Okay.
You're probably all so used to technology, but I'm going back to the old time. poster that I'm hanging up. Is this- We're addressing this particular topic because you as volunteers are the ones working with our members in their homes. And we want you to feel as comfortable as possible working with someone with dementia. You know, dementia can be in many forms, from different causes. The primary cause, as you know, is Alzheimer's, but there are other reasons why dementia occurs as well. And there are also stages in dementia. Most of the time, you'll be working with those that are in the early stages, but people are able to stay home through the middle stages until the very late. Usually they have to go into a home or have additional care in the very later stages. But you're going to be working with people at all different stages as far as what they're actually able to understand and what they're actually able to express to you. And I wanted to just talk a little bit about their problems with communication. And I'll ask you if you have anything else to add to these particular descriptions that I have written up here. One thing is they will repeat. They'll ask you the same question over again. Or they'll tell you the same story. And if you go back and visit them as part of a friendly visit, and you may be visiting once a week, you may be sharing that with someone else, but you'll get to know what the stories are that they remember, that they'd like to tell you. And you just listen to the story each time, and you're always interested in what they're saying because they're happy in the moment. So you're being there with them and listening and being happy with them and sharing that time. That's what's most important for the member, and that you're having a good time together. They may make up new words, so you may have a little bit of difficulty understanding what they're trying to tell you. In that situation, you would just go on and be calm. People always talk about. Thanks, Carolyn. People always are trying to understand maybe what they're saying, but as long as you're calm and you're patient and you're smiling, it's okay. And they're struggling to come up with the right word, and they may think that they've gotten the right word, and that's fine. And you'll eventually understand what they're trying to say and what they're trying to tell you. They could very easily lose their train of thought in the middle of a sentence. That happens to all of us, but
Yeah,
that's
right.
more likely. Yeah. Difficulty putting words together in a sequence so that they may talk in very short phrases when you're in communication with them. So unless it's a story and then the story goes on, but it's usually in small sentences as they're going forward. And then gradually they get so they're speaking less often. So you may be going into a home with a friendly visit where the person doesn't talk very much at all. They're at a little more advanced stage and they realize they're having difficulty. And so that's how they deal with it. They may not want to talk at all. They may realize that they can't be in as much conversation, or they may rely on gestures. And then you can do the same thing. Sometimes you are guessing at what they're trying to communicate, and that's okay. As long as you're calm about it and you have a soft tone of voice, you can repeat and try and get to what they're saying. Have any of you noticed anything else about when you've worked with dementia patients? Any other things that we should add to this list?
Well, Emily, I just have a question on something you just said. They may be quiet and not in a conversation. Do you try to draw conversation, or do you just sit quietly with them and maybe play music or read to them or whatever? What would you suggest?
Well, one of the things, we're going to do a couple role plays too, and one of the things that our volunteers find is helpful, that they've told me about, is they may like to play cards. They might like to look at pictures in a book. If you look around and you see that they have a quilting book, for example, you might go through the quilting book, and certain pictures will trigger memories for them, and they may be able to tell you something about that. It's perfectly fine, though, to sit and be quiet, too. They know you're there, you know. Watching TV is fine. You want to, draw them out as much as possible. The whole purpose of being there is to know that they're cared for, that you're there with them. Being together is the most important thing, that they know that you care about them. But they know something's wrong, and they can get angry, and they know there have been changes in their lives. And one of the things the volunteers have asked us to help with is how to deal with the angry patient.
That was going to be my question.
Okay. All right. What were you going to say, Peggy?
Just how to deal with the person who's angry. I've known demented people who are angry all the time. Do you just listen?
Okay, let's do a little role playing in that kind of a situation, and we'll see what we can come up with.
No, okay. All right, so, hi, Emily.
Well, hi, Vicki. How are you doing? I'm Emily. I've come to spend some time with you today.
You know, Emily, I've forgotten what I'm going to say. I'm not kidding.
You're gonna be angry.
Yeah, right? Oh, okay, all right. Oh,
Can you
okay.
speak a little louder, please?
Yes.
Okay,
Speak a little
well, I can talk louder. How is that? Okay. Okay, so what are you doing here today?
Well, I came to spend some time with you, Vicki. What, you look like you're a little bit upset.
Well, I'll tell you the truth, I'm very upset. My daughter won't let me drive my car anymore, and that means I have to stay home alone. And it's my car, I made the payments. Why can't I drive my car?
Oh my, I can see that you're upset about this. You know, there's times when we want to be with you and be able to do some things with you, and I'm hoping that maybe we can do something today that'll be fun together.
Well, I'm still upset about the car. I can do a lot of things, so why can't I drive my car?
You know, do you remember having any difficulty when you were driving your car?
Well, it took me a long time to get home.
Well, those things aren't very pleasant when you have some difficulties, and it's something that, you know, we will work around and we'll get you where you need to get to, but right now I wonder, come on with me and see, do you have a puzzle that maybe we can
I like
do
this.
something?
Sure. Oh, I love puzzles.
Oh, well,
Gosh
good.
darn, I did this last week.
I see you have a puzzle on baseball.
Yes, and I think it's, the team is the Nationals here. So I'm happy about that.
Well, good. I'm glad that you have a favorite team in baseball. And how about if we work on this puzzle together?
Yeah, let's do that. That will be fun.
So we're just trying to diffuse the anger a little bit and divert the attention of the person away from the anger. We can't fix the situation. So you're listening and showing that you're concerned, that you identify that they're upset, you know, so you're empathizing with them. You're getting down at their level, and Vicki mentioned all these things earlier. hopefully you can see some of those same things again. We're trying not to ask, it's kind of a balance there of asking whether, do you remember what the problem was? So that's a little bit iffy, but you're in the process of trying to get things that you're concerned about them. You identify that they're angry and that they're upset. But let's have a good time this afternoon, and let's find an activity that we can do together. And we did find that. And I think this would take you. You could spend an hour and a half, whatever time you have to be able to spend with that person and have fun, and there'll be a lot of interaction back and forth. They may remember a favorite team like the Nationals. They may say that, they may not. You're not gonna, you don't know where they're at exactly. Does that help at all, or can you think of anything else?
Yeah, you could also take cards of the puzzle with you in case they don't have anything.
Right, right. Oftentimes, you find something in their home, or you know what they like to do. Yeah.
Emily, at this point, could you ask them if there was a place they needed to go and suggest the Low Link would take them?
You could. They may not know where they, each person's in a different place. They may not know where they want to go. Generally, in one of the pamphlets I'm going to hand out to you, they've had some difficulty with going out to drive. And that's a hard time to take away the driving privileges. They may not know where they want to go. They just know that they're in the home. And they had some privileges removed from what they used to be able to do.
I'm
No.
thinking insurance-wise now and coverage. If you went for a friendly visit, and it's a beautiful day like this, could you suggest taking a walk outside? Or
Excellent.
because you're there for just a friendly visit in the house, do you still call Stacy, let her know you're going out, or can you just take that on yourself? Judging that the person is capable of walking out and would enjoy the outdoors.
Sure, they may just want to walk around the outside of the house too. And stand up a second, Vicki. You want to be like Gail was with Margaret. You want to have a good, you don't know how steady they are. As the dementia advances, they become unsteady. So you just want to have a good, and it's nice to be at their side and grasp their hand. They feel comfortable with that. But you have a little bit of control at the same time because you've got your arm locked under where theirs is. One thing that people like to do, their natural response, is just to want to hold your hand. And that's real difficult for me because I need to have some more control than just holding their hand, because if they lost their balance, there's no way I can help them. They've got my hand, my other hand is over here. But if I'm more like this, I'm closer to them, they feel more secure, and I have a little bit of control that if they started to fall, I would be able to hold them and protect them from hurting themselves. I wouldn't be able to keep them from actually falling necessarily. She may go to the ground, but she'll go gradual, she'll go gently.
Yes.
She won't get hurt, because I'll be able to control that. So, yes, I would take them outside if they, Oftentimes there's a spouse involved too that might be able to tell you what they can do. Okay.
You want to do the next one? I can read this one.
Okay. One more.
Okay.
Hi, Vicki. I'm Emily Sant.
Hi, come on in.
Thank you. Okay, if I sit down?
Sure, sure. I'm so glad you are here. Did you tell my daughter that you were coming today?
Well, yes, I think your daughter knows,
Oh.
because we've arranged it through Stacy that I would come and spend some time with you this afternoon.
Well, that's so nice. And your name's Emily?
Yes.
Emily's a nice name.
Thank you,
gee.
thank you.
I'm so glad you came today.
Yeah, good.
And does my daughter know that you're here today?
Yes, I believe she does,
Okay.
Vicki. I think that Stacy has probably let everybody know, and that she's asked me to stop by. I'm just so happy to be able to spend some time with you.
Well, I am happy too. And Emily's such a nice name.
I see you have some cards.
Yes.
I understand you like to play gin rummy. Is that-
Yes, I do. I
Okay.
do.
You wanna, Can we
Yeah.
play some cards this afternoon then?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
So, how many cards do I give you? Do you know?
Sure.
Let's see. Oh, these cards are all messed up. They're all
Yeah.
going different ways.
I
I
would
wonder whose cards these are.
You can deal 7 cards.
See, I don't play cards.
Well, you
Okay,
did a good job
all right.
shuffling those.
Okay. How many cards should I give you?
7 cards.
7. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Are you sure it's 7 or 5? How many did you say?
7
Okay.
cards.
Okay.
Okay, so, you know, we've made the point that, you know, there's they oftentimes say the same thing over, and they ask you the same question, and each time you answer in a calm way, in a nice way, and you're patient. You're patient with them. And that's the best you can do. And they're happy, you created a good situation. Thank you, Vicki. I have one more poster that I wanted to put up to show you. We're going to hand out since you are involved in activities with our members, this is just a real quickie, some effective activities, and I have a brochure to give you on that. The activities give them a sense of purpose and enjoyment. And these are just some ideas of bringing that meaning and purpose and joy and hope to someone. You use the person's skills and abilities. Like if you see cards around, you know they like to play cards. If you see puzzles around, you know they like puzzles. So you're trying to give them a sense of normalcy, something they're going to feel dignified, it's pleasurable for them. You focus on the process, not the end result. Oftentimes, they have certain behaviors that they play back again, and that's being hospitable. They may ask you numerous times while you're there, would you like a drink? Can I get you something to eat? Are you warm enough? And these kinds of things get asked over and over again, and you say, yes, I'm just fine, thank you. It's just wonderful being here. If you want a drink of water, maybe you'll walk with them to get the drink of water. So we have numerous pamphlets that you can pick up in addition to the ones that are up on this table. In fact, I'll probably put them out on the bigger table here so you can come up afterwards and get them. And also I put up a sign-up sheet if you would like more information or take a more advanced class in the Dementia Friends area. I would like to have your name and contact information so we can be in touch with you and try and make that happen. Or if you know of any groups, if you're part of a group that would like to bring a Dementia Friends training to. Okay? Thank you.
And if you think of any questions, okay, from our presentations up to this point, we're going to have a question and answer period at the end also. So if something has come into your head, you haven't had a chance to ask it, you'll get a chance to. When I was first organizing the section on medical equipment, I got in touch with Blanket Woods Fire Rescue, and Dan Cianci said, well, he said, I know how to get people out of a trap car, but I've never been asked to get them back into it safely once I got them out. And he said that his wife, Kelly, was the expert in that area. And so I spoke to Kelly, and she graciously offered to help us, and she's put together a team. Kelly is a physical therapist at Culpeper Hospital. Kelly Guido is an occupational therapist assistant in the Culpeper Outpatient Facility at Powell's Wellness Center. And Kelly Cutler is an occupational therapist assistant student from Eastern Virginia Career College. And they're going to put on a demonstration on the safe usage of medical equipment and portable oxygen. So please welcome them. Thank you.
You guys are really fortunate to have a group like this at Lake of the Woods. So I'm Kelly Guido. I'm the one that works at PAL Wellness, and Kelly Cutler is my student. And so this is great that we can come to you today and present. So I do have some packets. There's a ton of information in them. On the left-hand side of the packet is going to kind of break down specific activities from sit to stand. Also using a cane, going up and down a set of stairs. I don't know, there's a lot in there. And then on to the right is how you get someone in and out of the car with a walker, someone right after a procedure, and then also a sliding board transfer from a wheelchair. So those are what's in your packet. There's also a card in there as well for PAL Wellness Outpatient Clinic. So we're gonna work on transfers, how about sit to stand first? Okay, we're gonna do sit to stand first.
I'm Kelly Cianci. Thank you. Let you know which one I am.
So Kelly, do you wanna be our patient?
Well, I know at the hospital and at the outpatient center, we usually use gait belts. Do you guys ever use these at all?
No.
Your Alliance? Okay. Well, we like it because we can just put it around their waist, because oftentimes when I work with them, they're in a hospital gown, so that doesn't really give me much to hold on to. But, so like I'll wrap it around and I can just grab it from behind, but I usually also grab, not grab, but just kind of help guide them up from the side as well. So I would put my one hand here, and if you had armrest, you would use the armrest to push to stand up. Because if you go to pull on the walker, try to pull, and it'll tip back. So if you push up from the chair, then when you're up, you can put one hand over here and then another. If somebody really can't get up without holding onto it, you can just hold the walker and kind of help guide them up. And then when you go back to sitting down, I always like to have them reach back for the hands or for the chair for two reasons. One, that way they know the chair is actually behind them. And two, that way they go down slowly. Because if they don't put their hands back, they just plop down, hurt their back, hurt their hip, hurt you as well. So if they don't have that, you just need to have them try to release one hand back and go down nice and easy. And it's for your safety and for theirs too. So, and also I never try to, I help them stand up, but I let them go at their own pace. So if they're a little bit slower to get up, I don't try to rush them through it because that'll frustrate them, that'll frustrate you, and it could hurt both of you. So if it takes her a little longer, if it takes somebody a little bit longer, just give them that time, and ultimately you'll just be there to kind of help guide them. Because if I find that I'm trying to pick them up, it's a lot more work for me and for them too, because they kind of resist that. So I just try to go nice and slow and have the hands to help push up and to lower yourself back down. So it's a little confusing at times, and sometimes when I'm working with patients, they just look at me like I'm insane and just go and sit back down. And not much I can do to fix it, but I remind them all the time. So, because I don't want them to get hurt or me to get hurt or anyone in the staff that works with them to get hurt either.
Sit to stand. And how about getting out of the car? Do you guys have a hard time getting them out of the car?
I was just gonna ask the difference between getting in like a sedan versus the SUV, as Gail said earlier. I see them struggling sometimes when it's, the seat is a little higher in the car they're trying to get in and out of.
I would, if they're able to do a step, I actually bring a portable step, like Rubbermaid makes a nice one.
Yeah, I have one, but even with the step, sometimes
It's a little tricky.
because they're a little nervous because they have to go up as opposed to down.
Right.
Yeah.
Can I ask if it's a lady or a gentleman that you're helping?
It's usually females. Yeah.
Females, okay. Do they, even if they have like a belt on them, you ask them even to wear just like a fashion belt?
Okay.
Like a gait belt, sometimes just so you know you have a hold of them, helping them up there and have them put their hand on the door may help them feel better when they're up on that step. Or even reaching for that handle above on the ceiling may help them just feel a little bit better. And then you can kind of shift them into the seat. And where we have control is what? Our hips. So if you have their hips and you can kind of just shift them, then the weight is all going to go towards that.
Okay.
Our heavy and So, it's also our center.
Okay.
So just getting them guided into that spot really does help.
Okay, thanks.
That's what I would do. Trying to think, so then, and then the car, how do they do getting in the car for you, okay? Or just the SUVs are the biggest problems?
Well, mine is in SUV, so that's why I asked you, but I do have the step and that does help. But I've seen even just, you know, around, putting the hand behind getting in the car is what they generally do.
But it's a little different when you're having that step up.
Right.
Yeah, and, you know, if you have a nice, or even if you can get a bigger step, you might even make them feel a little bit better because then they have a little bit more space for their feet.
Okay.
So they know that they can kind of turn a little bit more.
Okay.
And then they know that they can get around and probably sit better like a car.
Okay.
Okay, so tell us what else. What else do you guys have struggles with these guys getting in and out of the car?
Yes, I have a fellow that I take to doctor's appointments from his assisted living facility. And getting in and out of the car is very difficult. And one of the problems that I found he started having, and he has mobility problems, is he has big feet. And I've got the seat back as far as it'll go, and he still has a problem getting his feet into the well of the car, and I want to help him get them in, but not hurt him.
Right, so I would actually recline the seat a little bit. You have the seat back as far as you can, and then I would actually have him scoot back on the back part of the seat. So it actually is gonna have him a little bit more seat room for the second that he needs to pull his leg in, and then have him scoot down.
That's
back
a
into
good
the
idea,
seat.
I haven't thought of
Yeah,
that.
and if he has start to have mobility issues, and this is for anybody, if some of your, how did they say it? How did you guys say that? Not older people.
Sure.
I like that. Some of your mature people that you help with, if you have a hard time, say you have like a cloth seat versus like a pleather or leather seat to slide, one thing is really good is to actually put a black trash bag on there, and that will actually help them scoot. Or sometimes if you need to help them, you can actually pull that trash bag in to help them get in. Sometimes, you know, their pants in that cloth seat is just gonna be like, and you're stuck like Velcro. You're not gonna move. So sometimes, that's just a kind of a helpful hint. Okay, so what else? Somebody else had a hand up.
Well, I just want to say it's probably obvious, but a lot of the seats go up and down.
Yes.
I always make sure the seat is all the way down.
Yeah, and sometimes that helps, and sometimes you'll see that those patients need the lift. So when they're trying to get up, out, I would raise it up to help them give that little extra lift. We do that in the hospital all the time. We have like hips and they're really struggling to sit to stand. We just bring that bed up and it's like, whoop, they're pop right up. So if you have somebody that struggles from sit to stand, definitely elevate the seat when you can.
When they get back in the car.
When they get out of the car or even in the car, either way, or when they get into like bed, I usually lower it a little bit.
Yeah, but like if they're struggling to stand back up after it's down at the lower spot, just lift it, push it back up somewhat, and that way they're up a little bit higher and they don't have to work quite as hard to stand up.
Oh,
So if I was
do it
just-
so when they can get in.
Right.
Yeah. When they get in, it's great, but when you get them out, just lift them up a little bit, because for me to sit on this table is way easier for me to get up versus if I get off that chair. So, and if anybody wants to try that, it's super, like, you do see a difference. Anybody else have any questions? Another hand.
I'm just gonna make 2 comments. Depending on how much you want to invest in, I have seen a thing that's basically, it is a person-sized Lazy Susan that can sit on the car seat, and that helps my mother, when I have to get her places, she can sit down and then spin, and bring her with.
Yeah, they're only, yeah.
And probably you have, there's a handle device that can fit onto the
Yep.
car door hinge, and that gives them a little something to push on. You can probably find those places. If you
Yeah.
want to have one in the back of the car for just in case.
Yeah, those are great, and those came out, I think, a few years ago. We
I saw them about
saw an
4 years ago.
influx of those, and then actually had a patient who actually was making them, just on wood. I'm like, wow, you're pretty amazing that you can do that, but yeah, Yeah. What else? What else do you guys struggle with when you're out there?
Stairs.
Stairs.
All right, so with the steps, if you're with somebody and you know that one side might be a little bit weaker or something, one side hurts a little bit more, when we do the steps, we always say, go up with your good leg. Or patients might have a hard time remembering that, we're like, the good go to heaven, the bad go somewhere else. Because when you go down the steps, you go down with your weaker leg or your hurt leg. So when you're going up the steps, I normally stand, if there's railings on both sides, have them use both railings. If there's only one railing, have them use that one railing, and then I would be like on this side, behind her, and then she would step up with her good leg and just do one step at a time, and then the other, and then again. So it's just one step at a time, nice and slow and easy. Good. All right, and then when you come down, you go down with your bad leg first. And if somebody's had like a hip or a knee replacement, or sometimes they're just like, I've never done it this way, I'm okay with it because I know it won't hurt them if they do it the opposite way and do the wrong leg first. But it's just a little bit safer if somebody's just a little bit weaker to go down with a bad leg. So I normally try to stand to the side and a little bit in front, because if they're gonna lose their balance going down the steps, it's gonna be forward. So that way I would go down with a bad one, and also one step at a time. So it's just nice and slow, let them go at their own pace. If you rush them, that's never gonna turn out well. So, yes.
Would you ever have them just go down on their bottom?
You can, but then you have to try to get them up from the floor, which is the hard part. I have had people do that, and when you're going down, it's okay, because you can get to like the second or third step and stand up. But if you try it the other way, going up the steps, it's really difficult, because then you have to get them up to like a little stool and then up onto a chair. So like, going down, you could do it, but it might be hard for you to try to get them up from like a low position. It could be putting some strain on your back or anything like that too. So if possible, I'd have them go down standing and up standing. But it's kind of, but if they're used to going it that way, then they probably know what works for them best. And I always say to patients when they're just like, well, I always do it this way, I'm like, well, let me see you do it. If you can do it safely, I'm okay with it too.
If you're going downstairs, why would you have them put the weight on the bad leg first?
Because then the good leg is doing all the work of lowering your body.
Okay.
I know, it's very strange. But,
So
when
I'm
you're
doing it wrong with my grandmother then, okay.
Yeah, 'cause like when you go up, the good leg's doing all the work lifting you up, and then the good one's doing all the work of lowering you down.
Got it, okay.
I know. It's kind of like with the cane, you put it on the good side, not the bad side. There's this long equation that gives you tells you why you should do it that way. I learned it at one point, I don't remember the equation, but with a cane, you want to keep it on the opposite side of their injury. Also with walkers, I have to correct many people when they're walking with it. Some people hold it back here when you're walking. Does not do much good because it can go sliding out. I'm sorry, sliding out, and then it's gone. Or if they're really, really close inside. So I try to tell them just to stay kind of right within the limits of the walker. So, and just go at a nice pace. And if you see them, I have to remind them, just stay within it, stay closer, and then they stand back up. It also helps their posture too. But it also is really good for the balance as well. So that's one I always have to correct.
They should be straight, they shouldn't be hunching over.
Yeah, you shouldn't be hunched over, should be up nice and tall, and just at an own pace, right inside of it.
Anybody else? Does anybody have to get anyone from a wheelchair to the car? How does that go?
Well, he's, in spite of mobility challenges, he can actually get himself in. In fact, he doesn't want you to help. Unless something gets a little out of kilter. One time his belt got stuck on the cardboard. So I had to explain to him, I'm going to unhook your belt from what it's stuck on. He usually managed to get himself in. But yeah, it's a challenge. You gotta make sure the chair is just right so that he can actually get his hand on solid things.
You're doing okay with it right now? Good. What else? What else is a challenge? Do so in that packet, just go back to this packet for a second, at the top of the right-hand corner, it's very small and I apologize, but on the top of each one of those has a video actually. If you go to that, I think it's Culpeper Medical MedBridgeGo.com. I didn't do it that small, that's just how it is made. And there's an access code, you can put that access code and it actually plays video. So if anything that we haven't gone over today or you have questions, it actually goes through a whole video and it actually talks through every single thing. So like I said, there's a lot of information in there that I gave you. Okay, and like even if your gentleman ends up having to use a sliding board, there's actually a video in there of someone using a sliding board. And we brought a couple with us. Didn't know if you wanted to practice anything like that.
You don't do
Nothing, I got it.
If this is the same person, he might be. She also holds the door to let himself in, which
I would
scared
say-
me because I'm afraid the door, and won't let you hold the door. So I just kind of stood there, you know.
Right.
You know,
I've had a few people, not in my professional arena, but actually one of my mother's friends who had MS years ago, she's passed away. And it was Christmas Eve and she had fallen on the floor. And she called our house at like 12 o'clock and said, you know, she's on the floor, and usually the squad would come and pick her up. And so my mom said, well, Kelly's here, she can get you up off the floor. So I went and I'm like, I will get you up, but I have to put a gate belt around you in order to get you up. And she refused the gate belt, and I said, well, then you're gonna have to lay on the floor. Sometimes you have to have a little, there's a give and take here. You're helping a person, but you also have to kind of say, I don't feel comfortable with this, and if you want me to help you, this would make me feel comfortable, more comfortable to help you if I held the door.
Yes, because
So
you
just
totally
have them understand where you're at in this too. You're giving of yourself, so let them, it's, you know, have a little give and take here. I'm helping you, please let me make me feel good about what I'm helping you with. And I kind of had to have that, I don't know, the wake-up call for this lady, and she let me put the gate belt on her and I got her right up. But I said, I'm not touching you without a gate belt. So we just had this, I was very straight and direct, and that was it.
I've never seen a gate belt.
Oh, okay.
Could you show us?
So this is a gate, well, this is our hospital grade that we don't really care too much for, I think, but they're wipeable and that's why we have them. So a gate belt is simply a belt. Do you want to put it on Kelly? Oh, Kelly. I know, right? So what it does is it just, you put this end in, you lift this, it's like a, if you've anybody been on an airplane, or you just put this in this slot, and what you do is you actually cinch this up fairly tight, because if someone's sitting down, it ends up being too big. So I always just say, is that okay? And someone will say, yeah, it's okay. But this actually gives me control of her, right? I can push her all over the place, right? I mean, I'm already pushy enough. But anyways, you can be really pushy with this thing. But the thing is, if you had someone, you were walking them, and you felt like they were gonna fall, you could actually control their fall so much better having this belt on them. And sometimes if you don't have a gait belt and that person wears a belt, yay! Because that is gonna help you. You don't necessarily have to have this one. I don't know, I've used them in home health where I've, you know, if I didn't have a gait belt and they, like you have a belt on right now, I can still control you just like I control her, right?
Can you show how you would get her off the floor?
Sure.
Just,
Can you
just
get
use
those?
that as a story.
Yeah, I know, right? So she's on the floor, and so what I'm gonna do, actually, can you go this? So I'm gonna have her get, if the person's able to, I'm gonna try to get them close to a chair as I can. So if I can move the chair, I'm probably gonna move the chair closer to her butt so I don't have to go as far. The other thing is if they can roll on their knees, which sometimes they can and sometimes they can't, I will try to get them on their knees. So I'll have her roll. Can you get on your knees for me? And then I actually have them put their hand on, turn towards the chair. And then I'll either have them boost up, put their butt towards the chair, and have them reach here and then push themselves up, and I'll help them. Ready? 1, 2, 3, and I'll have them try to get on their feet and come up. There's also a video on that in there.
Kelly, can you
Yes.
buy those belts at medical supply stores or
Yes,
elsewhere?
ma'am, and the funny thing is you might even find a few at a thrift store. I think when I was doing home health, I think I would find them all the time, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I'll just wash this and give it to this person when I'd be in home health because people needed them. And I think like the cloth ones probably run $12, $15. They're kind of priceless, actually. They're really good.
Question.
Sure.
So, all this said about the belts and such, I imagine that has gone beyond what a low-link volunteer
I would
should be
think so.
expected to deal with. And so I don't know, someone from
I think call these guys.
So-
I call these guys right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Call 911.
Yeah, I would be calling these
To
guys.
be clear.
And the thing is, you really don't want to move anybody. If you find them on the floor, you really need to call the squad because you don't know what is actually going on with that person if they've injured. My mom did this past year. Her friend fell on the floor, and the lady's probably about 90 pounds. And my mom's like, why can't I get her just to knuckle? She had broken her hip. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Mom, don't pick anybody up. If you find someone on the floor, just leave them there. Call the squad, end of story. So, but I mean, that your impulse is to pick somebody up, but it's really not safe for you or them.
Well, I imagine there
so,
might be some
yeah.
liability for low-link.
Right,
Absolutely.
so to be clear, for low-income volunteers, do not try to pick somebody up, whether it's in their home, at the grocery store, at the beauty salon, it doesn't matter. Please call 911. Yeah, please. Thank you.
Great. Anybody else have any questions?
We've been in that situation, we've been called to help pick someone up. And
We
we've
feel
done it, but then I said, I don't think we should, I think we should call,
Yeah, call the squad is the
The
best
squad.
thing. Yeah, absolutely.
even though they get very angry about it. It's like the person that called for help to get it, she wants us to get it done.
Oh, yeah, because they don't want to, the squad does it, but the person who's sitting on the floor is like, don't call them, right?
Yes.
And they're ashamed that they fell or, and I mean, it happens and it's okay. That's what you guys, right? You guys are okay with it, right? I know, after a few hundred. What else? Anybody else have anything? I really apologize for the small print at the top of the page of those our videos, but if you do have low vision issues, I can come around and write it big for you. I promise. And if you guys haven't, do you have any other questions or anything?
No.
I think this is a great group. I think it would make me want to move to Lake of the Woods.
When she gets older.
I live in Rappahannock and we don't have anything like this.
When you get mature.
When you get mature, you can move.
Sounds good. All right. And if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to call me. I'm at the Powell Wellness Outpatient Clinic, which the number is on the card and your pamphlet. I'll be glad to help you with anything, or if you need any other resources, please don't hesitate to call me. Kelly is at the hospital. We have like there's some giveaways up here. There's Band-Aid packets, there's lip balms, and there's a few hand sanitizers, so you're welcome to take those as well.
Thank you.
We should have had that.
Oh, I can get, you know what, I'll send some more down with Kelly.
Thank you, Nancy.
Dan is going to give us some tips on portable oxygen tanks. Thank you so much.
It's okay. So my name is actually Andrew Rose. I'm with the. I'm not Kelly's.
Yes, Susie, that was nice.
So yes, I'm Andrew Rose. I'm with the Lake of the Woods Volunteer Rescue Squad, and we were asked to come and talk to you about oxygen tank safety. And so I guess before I begin, I just want to echo what the Kellys had said. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing for volunteering your time. We see so many residents here in the community that aren't quite at the level of needing, someone to forcibly come in, but they're in this gray zone, and that's where Lowlink can come in. Yeah. And I think the services that you all are offering and volunteering are just amazing. It's really going to help out a lot of the citizens and hopefully reduce injuries and help them stay in the community longer. So thank you. So with that being said, has just, I guess, a show of hands to see how many people are familiar, who has worked with oxygen in the past? So maybe a third of the group. Okay. So when it comes to oxygen, I think it's important to remember that this is a gas. It's flammable, it's combustible, and it should be treated with the utmost respect because it's easy to get complacent with things like this. It's compressed chemical, and so there's lots of oxygen pushed in here, and it's different from air. Right now we're breathing air, which has 21% oxygen in it. This is 100% oxygen, which is what makes it flammable. And so you always need to remember that whenever you're dealing with oxygen. And so it's flammable, so therefore you don't want to keep it around heat sources, open flames, so fireplaces, candles. That's a heavy no-no. So no open flames in the house when you're using oxygen, and absolutely no smoking. You can every once in a while find that COPD patient who's on oxygen because they have COPD because they were smoking. So I don't know if anybody's had to deal with that issue or not, but that it would be a big struggle, is getting somebody to stop smoking because they need oxygen. So, but absolutely you can't use it. And like I said, this is compressed gas, and so you can think of it almost like a missile. So if you were to drop it at the right way, it could theoretically become a projectile. And so whenever you're utilizing it, just make sure that you are handling it appropriately. So what does that mean is if you have a tank, you don't want to leave it just standing up like this because it's easy to knock over. You can break off the stem here, and then once again, that's what's preventing this from going away. So we recommend that whenever you're dealing with cylinders like this, that you keep them on the floor, you keep it flat. That way if somebody were to bump into it, it wouldn't put pressure on the stem and then possibly break it. If they are going to be kept flat, then you can put some sort of wedge so it doesn't roll around, okay? What else? Oftentimes these can also be in carts. That's an appropriate storage device as well, or mechanism, if you will. And so when it comes to administering oxygen, or well, actually, before I get started, what capacity have you all had to interact with oxygen in the past? Switching out cylinders, or just simply
how to turn it off.
In an emergency, and how to turn it off? Okay.
Yeah.
Or somebody who had a portable oxygen and then it got home and she needed to hook it up with her cylinder at home.
Okay.
And how to do that.
Okay, so pretty much all aspects of it then. Okay, so unfortunately, we probably don't have the same oxygen cylinder as some of your members do. And so for those of you that are familiar with oxygen, typically what you're going to find is you're going to see a stem coming out the very top. That's the on and off, if you will. So in order to turn that, you need to have a special key. And it's special in the sense that it's just a rectangular key that fits onto it, and then righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So if you're trying to turn it off, you want to turn it clockwise. If you don't have a key, you might become like a MacGyver and just say, get a wrench and turn it off. Well, we don't recommend doing that. As we said, this is flammable. If you take metal onto metal and you create a spark and there's some oxygen leaking by, then that's obviously not safe. In fact, on the ambulances, we don't even use, we're not supposed to be using metal wrenches. We actually have like a soft metal that won't create a spark in the event you were to hit it at the right way. So if you're turning off a cylinder, once again, you need that key. Don't get a crescent wrench or anything like that to turn it off. You need a plastic key is typically what it is, and turn it to the right. If they don't have that and it's just like a little lever, if you will, that acts as the key in and of itself, okay? Or your patients, or excuse me, your members could have a cylinder like this, and it's essentially off until you activate the flow meter on the top, okay? So I haven't seen any other presentations or designs other than that. And then you said turning or exchanging between cylinders. Okay, so that's we frequently we sometimes get called for that as well. I think it's important that as volunteers that you, let me step back. So clearly, if somebody's on oxygen, they need it to help sustain their livelihood, if you will. If they're not on oxygen, they become short of breath, and then they become in distress. Well, it's important for the volunteer to remember to not get involved in that stressful situation and remain calm, okay? If they're having shortness of breath because they're out of oxygen, absolutely call 911, even if it's just because you need to switch them over. We don't want to risk somebody having an exacerbation because they didn't have oxygen. And so we can always just help you facilitate that exchange. Or if it's leading to a stressful exacerbation, then they might even need transport to the hospital. So if they're having shortness of breath, call 911 definitely. But if it's just simply that exchange, then what was your specific scenario? How were they? Where were they in the house? Or?
Well, she had her cylinders, and she was new to this. She had just been put on oxygen, so she really she wasn't sure how to even turn it on at home. And then she had a portable device, and I knew nothing, and she didn't know very much either. So that's what we did call fire and rescue.
And so you were trying to connect to an oxygen concentrator?
Yes, trying to connect to her device, or to her cylinder at home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's so many different ways that you can approach this. So if they're already on a cylinder and you're trying to just connect to another cylinder, then as we kind of said already, you want to make sure that it's on. So, and before you put yourself in that situation, if you're helping a member and they're on oxygen, it would behoove you to get familiar with their device and make sure that you're familiar with the operations. If you ever have any questions about oxygen, come down to the rescue squad, call us, we'll come out. We'll help you, we'll help educate you on the device if you're not familiar with how to turn it on and off. And then, so if you're making that switch, then make sure that the cylinder's on and nearby, and whatever, if they're on a cannula, which is 9 times out of 10 what they're going to be on, you would just take it off this, make sure that you then turn it off, and then connect it to the next one.
Right, I think she didn't know even how to turn it on. She couldn't find the key,
Gotcha.
She didn't know.
Yeah, so like in most cases, there's almost like a little bit of homework prerequisites that go along to things like this, and so it's important that the member and the volunteer are both familiar with how to operate it. Yes?
So the gauge on there, what are you gonna set it at? Is it 2, 3?
It's whatever the physician, I would say it's whatever the physician has prescribed the
Right,
patient.
but if you don't know that, what is a safe? Or if they can't tell you, what is a safe?
So if they are on a nasal cannula, so the prongs that go into their nose, theoretically you don't want to go over 6. When it goes over 6 liters per minute, which is, you will see that number on your regulator right here, it tends to dry out and irritate their nasal mucosa, and so it's really turbulent for them, it's uncomfortable. If they're on home oxygen, if they're going above 6, you need to call 911 anyways, because they're gonna there's something else wrong. So typically, it's going to be anywhere from half a liter per minute up to maybe 4, maybe really extreme severe COPD patients, they might be up in that high range. So, but 9 times out of 10, they should have a physician order. It's important to remember that this is a drug. We treat it as a drug just like we would give any other drug. And so if a volunteer is dictating how much oxygen somebody's getting, well, you're effectively acting on their behalf as far as administering a drug. And so it's important to also have that kind of understanding as to where they need to be. Now, with that being said, if somebody's struggling to breathe, you've called 911 already, it's okay to increase this in order to help them breathe better. So one common safety concern that we always see is you have everybody know what an oxygen concentrator is?
No.
Okay, so this is portable oxygen. You can put this in a bag. You can take this to Food Line. You can go wherever you'd like. Concentrator is something that runs in your home. It's maybe as large as this chair, and it pulls the air from inside the room, and it compresses. It takes the oxygen and compresses it, and then it can deliver it to the patient. And so it's a big boxy machine. You'll hear it running, and that is used so they can breathe throughout their home, in the kitchen, the bathroom, the living room, wherever. So that entails lots of oxygen tubing, right? And so it's so easy to not stay up to, not to be safe with that. And what I mean by that is if somebody's on oxygen and then they go to the bathroom and then they go to the living room, there's this huge trail, and when they come back, now you have a trip hazard. And so it's important that if you're facilitating caring for a member, that you are being safe with that oxygen tubing. That's a common problem that we see is tons of oxygen tubing. So what you can do is you can curl it up, put it into,
Like
put it, yeah, just like a garden hose. Kind of curl it up when they're close to the oxygen concentrator, and then when they go out, they'll just take it with them, and then just make sure that you kind of curl it back up when they get back close to the concentrator. So, any questions, other questions about oxygen? Did I miss anything? Jack, Josh? So I'm Andrew Rose. We have Jack Kelly and Josh Gibson as well.
It's really beneficial to know that we can call you on any of these oxygen issues.
Yes.
It takes a lot of the stress off of our shoulders to know that we don't have to know a whole lot about it, that you're right on hand, and that's a real gift.
So if you call 911 because somebody's having trouble breathing, we're going to use our lights and get there very quickly. If you make a request that, hey, I'm not sure how to use this oxygen cylinder, we're not going to come lights and sirens, and so it's going to take longer. So just realize there might be that little bit of a gap, and so if somebody's having trouble breathing, but you've only relayed to the dispatcher that you can't figure out how to operate their oxygen cylinder, then just realize that there might be that delay. So just relay appropriately what the issue is, and we'll be able to respond.
Do you think that this is something that we could relay to our members also, like those who are new to oxygen, that if they're stuck with it or they're unsure how to use it, that they have this tool available to them? I wasn't aware of it.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, if somebody's placed on oxygen, their prescribing physician is going to educate them, or maybe a therapist or whoever. But if I would say that we are reserved for the instance when you can't figure it out and somebody needs oxygen.
Okay.
So.
But the people making the deliveries of the oxygen and the supplies, they're usually very good on giving instruction.
Oh, good.
I mean, I don't know about here, but
Yeah.
I mean, that's been my experience.
Okay.
That we had, my mother was on oxygen for a long time.
Yeah.
And so I was new to it. And so I made it a point to be there when switch the tanks and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely,
Yeah,
ask
I
them
mean-
questions. Anything else?
That's
Um,
great, thank you.
Yeah, I guess the other thing that just popped in my head is if you are assisting a citizen outside of the home to, say, a car and they're on oxygen, you just need to stop and think about how logistically you're gonna make that happen. Because we've already talked about how unsafe this is gonna be, but if you're holding a member's hand or guiding them, how are you managing this? And so backpacks, purses, those are all really valuable tools to help not really have to worry about this. But if you don't have that, then you need to figure out how you're gonna, because this isn't gonna always be ideal, right? So just something to think about.
So I do have that, if they have it on a roller, I've seen them on rollers.
Yeah.
Would you put that whole rigmarole in the front seat with them, or would you have it in the back seat with the hose coming up to the front? I haven't had that situation, so I don't know what I would do.
Yeah.
How
I
do you do
would
that?
maybe situation dependent, if it's really crammed up there and they have issues. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're wrong to do it one way or the other. I mean,
It'd be just to figure out how to get the hose in the back if you're putting it
Yeah,
in the back. and
right,
still keep it
absolutely.
attached to that.
Yeah.
So I have not come across that, but.
yeah, I mean, if maybe in the back would probably be the best, because just God forbid that you get into an accident, if you
Don't want
front end
to-
damage and then this, you know, so typically if you're rear ended or frontal impact, the middle of the car is going to maintain its integrity. So that might be a benefit to having it in the back seat.
And there are different lengths
Or-
of tubing.
Or the person in the back seat with
Put
it?
them both in the back seat.
The person in the back seat with it, yeah.
You got a whole back seat.
Yeah, I think,
Sitting next to them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's all, thanks.
Back seats are harder to get into.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you disconnect them from the oxygen while they get in the car, then reconnect them? Or is that not good?
I mean, it all depends. Once again, if you have that severe COPD patient who really needs to always be on oxygen, if you pop it off, then it could send them into an exacerbation, a shortness of breath episode. And so, you know, I wouldn't recommend it in that case. However, if it's somebody who's on half a liter per minute and you know that getting them in and out of the vehicle is difficult when it's connected, then it might be easier on both of you to try it. So I would say kind of assess the situation, assess the patient, assess the circumstances. Ideally, keep them on oxygen. If the physician wants them on oxygen 24/7, they should be on oxygen 24/7. And don't forget, as we move around, as we exert ourselves, we're requiring our body to utilize more oxygen. And so if you're getting in and out of the vehicle, more than likely they're not going to be at baseline. They're going to be having an increased oxygen demand. So they're probably going to want to stay on oxygen.
You'll find too that there's different levels of needs. Some people are prescribed by their physician just to use oxygen at night, or when they're cleaning their house, when they're exerting a little bit. Otherwise, they don't actually have to be on it. So it's different people, different circumstances.
Well, the only one that I had actually, they have a box and it's like in a bag and
Yeah.
it weighs a ton, but they have it in the bag and that's very affordable. But I,
Is that like a portable concentrator? Is it running?
It's got a battery with it too. Then.
Like an engine device.
Any other questions or comments or anything about the rescue squad that we can help you with? No? Okay. Well, thank you for your time.